Hey, rolling into Tuesday, get it? So we were supposed to be rained on. We're starting footings today, so we're bringing over the machine because it's just down the street from our other job. And yes, I'm being safe. I'm doing 10 miles an hour because, you know, it's not exactly the world's fastest forklift. It's not a Ferrari. Anyway, what a great day to set up footings. Finish them up tomorrow, get inspection, pour on Monday. Most know. We get inspection Friday? I don't know. Okay. Okay, time to set up some footings. So we have good weather. We're supposed to be rained on, but the excavators got done yesterday. So we're gonna go and get all set up and get this bad boy formed today and tomorrow morning. And thus begins Project 150 Olympic. So we are getting ready to set, well, we're not getting ready to set up footings. We are setting up footings. This could have been a little easier. We've built this house 1, 2, 3 times in the last 3 years. I really enjoy framing this one. All of the foundations were much easier to set up than this because notice we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it ended up being 7 step downs. Not the end of the world. They're only 2-foot steps, but still. We don't like to do steps because they're time consuming. It takes a lot more to be accurate with steps. So notice in the very back corner, we're setting up batter boards. Not really true batter boards, but essentially we just scabbed on a couple 2x6s. That way we can run a string line and we can pull a tape from that and it gets us up to the highest level. So it just needs to be at least 4 feet high. Okay, well that was quick. I absolutely love my pulmonary doctor, by the way. Okay, let's see if we don't get good weather. If that, I don't know if the camera's picking it up. It's very dark. We're supposed to have thunderstorms, but so far, so good. Just kidding. I really do not enjoy the starting process, but I think now, once we get this, Kyle's almost parallel. Once we get this staked in and I get up there, get a square, then we can roll. Let's go over how we like to do footings. First of all, those are 2x6 footing boards. For years, 1x6 is what we used, and it was the standard here in the Pacific Northwest. But we made the switch to 2x6s, I don't know, maybe like 5 years ago, for a couple of reasons. One, we're going to reuse all of these footing boards. So we just scrape them. That means they get poured one time, we keep them on the job, and then we use them up throughout the build. So it means that we don't have to pack footing boards onto the next job. We always have new footing boards. Second, 2x6s stay much stiffer and require fewer cleats, fewer stakes, and less bracing. The other major change for us is that we use screws. Specifically, we use the Simpson Strong Tie framing screw. That in an impactor is less wear and tear on your body, and it's ridiculously easy to strip these foundations, these footing boards. And we save those screws because this isn't a structural application, so we can reuse those. Is it faster? No. Is it slower? I don't think so. Is it easier? Oh yeah, it's a lot easier. Driving big 16-penny duplex nails through 2x6 footing boards is kind of annoying. Okay, what Kyle's doing right there is we are double checking that we have square. Yes, we're gonna use the laser to dial it in, but we're just gonna pull 2 or 300 foot tapes. We kind of tend to leave those sitting out, by the way. Now here, we've made a mistake. So we've pulled square again, because one of us always makes a mistake with the math. Once we have those corners squared, and so let's say left to right is the right dimension, front to back is the correct dimension, then we pull square, we lock that in. Now it's a matter of string lining that back run and staking it in straight, because that will be a reference. Same thing on the right-hand side. All right, we are coming along. Man, nobody can shovel better with a hammer than Kyle Davis. This is where the step downs get kind of annoying, is because you can't really get things perfect. We get it as close as we can. Double check, string line, keep it straight. But our footing boards here are spec'd at 18 inches wide, 8 inches deep. The stem wall is 6 inches. So that means we have 6 inches outside and 6 inches inside of the stem wall to play with. So yes, we're trying to dial this in, but we know that we can make up for some discrepancies when we actually set clips for the wall. And you'll see that at the end of this video. So that 4 foot in the back corner where Kyle's at, that just allows us to pull a tape measure and get it up high enough for all of those steps. And then everything is just checking. We want to make sure it's parallel as we go. So here's the principle. We make that big square that you saw just a moment ago. Think of that as 2 legs to a triangle. So we'll say the east-west wall across the back and the north-south wall across the right. Once those are staked and straight, now all we have to do is pull parallel numbers from the back toward the front and from that right-hand side across to the left. So once that first corner is square, everything that's parallel to one of the legs of the triangle, everything that's parallel to the other leg, that's going to ensure that you're square. Our job now is to make sure that we have the right dimensions and that we keep everything parallel. Here is a pro tip worthy of the price of admission, which was free, by the way, in case you forgot. Oh, by the way, please like and subscribe and ring the little bell, tap that bell symbol. Anyway, back to the pro tip. It's that table right in the middle. I think at Office Depot was like 40 bucks. It might not even have been that much. Saves your body a lot of wear and tear. Put your plans on it, put your coffee on it, put your radio on it, your phone, whatever. Try to save yourself from bending over, because guess what? You're gonna spend all day bent over on footing work. Hey, do you guys want to see the wound that Kyle sustained teaching Krav Maga last week? Krav Maga?
It's Krav Maga.
No, it's...
Cooking frog raw?
Is that what you were making?
No.
Okay.
I'm not Canadian.
No, if you were, you'd be such a wimp.
My thumb lost to the kitchen knife.
Kitchen knife, you cook?
Yeah, I cook.
How come you never make me anything?
Well, you're kind of a picky eater.
Touche. Anyway, you were just, what just happened that made you cry?
The impactor, you know, I missed the screw and it went in. And, yeah, just like that stuff. And it's none of your business, and don't even worry about it.
So footing work is a little tedious in the sense that everything from this point forward hinges on whether or not we do a good job. So right now you can see things are not perfectly square or parallel, but they're getting closer. So every time we walk to the van, every time we go get something, stop and take a drink of coffee, we're always looking at the footing to see if anything looks off. It turns out something was off on the front right, and I caught it with the drone at the end of the day. And we came in and fixed it before we poured. But I cannot overemphasize how important it is. You don't have to be to the 16th, but you have to be square and parallel now. Otherwise, that error will compound, and oh my goodness, you do not want to do that. I know a guy who once was out of parallel by a foot on the footing. Thankfully, we caught that before, thankfully those guys caught it before they put their cleats down and were able to expand the footing, dowel it in, and still, a couple hours worth of work. Saved a lot of headache later. Still, do not make that mistake. Take it from me, a friend of those guys that made that mistake way back on that one house in 2010. Still have nightmares about that. It wasn't a difficult fix, thankfully, but still, at least we caught it early. So go back to the plans often. And this was it for the first half day. We spent some time on setup before we actually got over here to set up. All right, we're getting out of here. Actually pretty productive. We didn't start here until 10. So we just got the strip footings in the morning and then raise it, tie the steel. But I don't think we're gonna get inspection tomorrow. I think we're gonna push that off till Friday. Also, I think we're gonna miss that band of weather. Coming right at us. Seems like a good place to stop. Where we left it on day one, or day one half, day 0.5, where we left it was the basic footprint was formed and straight and staked in. Now, because we're not using pier pads, by the way, this is a crawl space, so on the right-hand side where we're at, that's the house. On the left-hand side is a 3-car garage. So for frame of reference, and you'll see how that develops as we go along. Sorry about that, hairball in my throat. Where was I? Strip footings. Okay, strip footings instead of pier pads. It's a little more concrete. It's slightly more labor on the footing side. However, it saves a lot down the road. So now that the footprint is completely straight, parallel, square, and staked in, Now we can go through and add our strip footings. And then we just connect them right up with the footing boards, and then we cut out the buck outs, and that way the concrete itself is continuous along with the rebar. So a lot of this we can do working separately, but a lot of it's just a little easier if we work together, especially pull and lay out. 2 heads is better than 1, I'm telling you. Half the time Kyle makes an arithmetical error, and the other 90% of the time it's me that makes the error in math. The purpose of the strip footings is to support the floor system and then of course walls and eventually the roof above, but not all of those strip footings actually support walls. So the one I'm working on right there in the middle, that actually does support a wall that goes all the way up to the roof. And you'll see that later as we get to the framing. But the one I'm working on now in the back just splits the span of the joists in half. So they run about every 10 feet, and then some of them directly align, like the one Kyle's working on right next to the table. That one actually aligns with the master bedroom wall. Again, it goes all the way up to support the roof. The rest of them just shorten the span on the joists. You're gonna see later how that helps us out. Basically, you can imagine if you have a shorter span on joists, then that means you don't have to go as tall with the joists. It also means you can probably space those joists farther apart. We frame 24 on center instead of 16 on center. And each of these strip footings will get the same rebar schedule as the rest of the footing. So very strong system. This whole footprint is all connected through the steel. Hey, and speaking of steel, now it's time to start spreading rebar. That whole pile that you see there in the middle, that is 20 foot number 4 or 1/2 inch rebar, grade 60. So what I do is I go through and I just start scattering bar. Kyle's gonna come through and cut it. We put everything on top of the spreader cleats. In fact, I'm not gonna belabor this because you're going to see that in just a moment. All right, it's coming along, mostly because of our secret weapon. Look at this, I can just look right you guys right in the eye. I'm just looking right at you. Pretty trippy, huh? You're supposed to fall down. Nice. Now that the long bar is scattered, what Kyle does is starts cutting things to length. And then you'll see the overlap system in just a moment. But he's gonna keep track of scrap, and what my job was to just scatter the long runs. He's gonna take his scrap and he's gonna fill in as he goes because he's mentally keeping track of all of that. Notice that we are not using our rebar benders or our rebar cutters at all. I order as much prefab, pre-cut, pre-bent as I can, and anything that needs to be cut is done with a grinder. Another thing that he's keeping track of is the length of his scrap, because our splices, so we have to overlap the rebar. It can't just butt, it needs an overlap. And for grade 60 number 4 bar, generally we need a 24-inch overlap. Sometimes the municipality locally will require 30 inches, which means that all of our overlaps are 30 inches or longer. And they're almost always out of scrap because it's better to use them in the concrete than it is to cut 10 inches off and throw it away. So what you're seeing on the screen right now are called Snapp Barr, and I'll put the link in the description. It's a plastic product that actually is made locally about 10 minutes from us that we started to use here, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. We have to tie in our vertical steel. We are very slow at tying in our vertical steel. In the old days, we could wet set. The local municipality started requiring it all to be tied in place with alternating hooks. We're really slow because we are framers. We are not foundation guys. We can do it, and we're pretty efficient at it, but we're always looking for a way to get better. So we tried these out, and as you can see, they go pretty fast. Not as fast as you professionals, but faster than we can do it. So here's the process. Before we raise the footings to grade, we set all of our long steel. We cut everything to length with a grinder. We don't use rebar benders or cutters anymore. We place all of the steel on top of the spreader cleats. And then we install these. So you notice that it kind of splits the footing into thirds. Once that's done, then we take the pre-made 24 by 24 corners. I order those, they're a stock item. They save us all the time of bending bar. Figure 2 per corner, and then however many for your walls. And I'm using the TwinTier Max rebar tying gun. So by placing the rebar on top of the spreader cleats, installing these Snapp Barr rebar holders, I can keep everything nice and spaced in the right length, and then come back and tie in all the corners. And that's gonna lock all the steel together, and it's gonna make sure it stays where we want it relative to the edges of the forms. Also, can we just comment on how fast the rebar tying gun is? By the way, all told, this was about 350 lineal feet of footing, strip footings, with 2 bars in each. It took us about 2 hours completely to tie it all. I'll get to the verts here in just a moment. We have to overlap all of our steel here. It's in the International Residential Code, so follow the rules where you're at. That's how we do it. I could order 30 by 30 bends, but 24 by 24 work well. So here it is in real time. I'm gonna shut up for a second. Okay, I got a little sloppy with that bar. I like to tie everything either where the bars overlap on the top or the side, but not both. It doesn't matter. The code just requires that they be tied and overlap. Now in this case, I'm moving the bars and I'm gonna tie the overlaps. Technically here, we only need to be overlapped about 24 inches, but what's the point of cutting 2 feet of bar off? So we just let it run a little long. Now what I like to do is, because I've already gone around and put the Snapp bars about 3 foot on center, our requirement was 4 foot, but instead of pulling out a tape, I just install a few extras. I like to go all the way around and put the Snapp bars in, then go set my verts right next to it, and now here's the process for installing them. You have to be pretty confident with your use of the hammer. In the 4, maybe 5 years we've been using these, I've never hit my thumb. And I can guarantee you I probably will do it next time I do it now, just because I said it. So see, I just grip it with my left hand because I'm right-handed, alternate the hooks, and then generally it's 1 tap. I've tried this with vice grips, putting them in, well, generally with 1 tap, not always. Vice grips didn't work out that well. It was easier just to hold them. Once you get into a rhythm, I installed 90 of these in 1 hour. So I feel like that's pretty good for framers. We're not the professionals. On Instagram, I asked the professionals. A lot of guys told me I was slow. When I asked them what I could do better, they didn't respond. Typical. But a couple guys did, and they were real gracious. They could, with 2 people, they could do about the same amount. One guy, he was just super fast. I'm too old to get fast. Here it is, start to finish. It's about 8 seconds or 9 seconds when I put it on Instagram. So you can get into a rhythm. Here I just go through and install all the rest of them. Just work your way all the way around. What I find for me personally is that if I do the same exact task repetitively, I get into a better rhythm. So it's easier for me to go through and install all the Snapp bars on the horizontal, then lay out all the 2-foot verts, then come back and install them. And that way, even though I'm going around the footing 3 times, I feel like I just gained some efficiency by doing the same movement repetitively before switching to the next.
Hey Kyle, Chuck Norris once counted to infinity twice. Hey Kyle, Chuck Norris takes napalm for heartburn. Hey Kyle, did you hear that Chuck Norris came in contact with COVID-19? COVID-19's been in quarantine for the last year. Chuck Norris once got bit by a cobra. After hours of agonizing pain, the cobra died. I love that one. Oh, come on, come on.
I was taught to hang the footing steel from those spreader cleats and then pour concrete, untie them, trowel, etc. About 4 years ago, somebody suggested to us, hey, why don't you guys use concrete Dobbies? We're like, yeah, why don't we? They're like maybe 60 bucks. It's less than 100 bucks for this entire house. And I can actually order them to match what the engineer wants for cover. So for example, he wants 3 inches of concrete from the dirt to the steel. Well, then I just order 3-inch Dobbies. So what we do is we tie these onto the steel while it's still on top of the spreader cleat. Nothing's been dropped down yet. We just run through, they've got little twist ties in them, and you just finger tie them. They don't have to be tight. You just wrap the little wire around them. About every 4 to 6 feet, run around all the way. And now what we do is when we drop these down into the footing, they're gonna be exactly 3 inches off the dirt. Even though the dirt isn't perfectly level, we'll still have a minimum of 3 inches of concrete.
Trick and DiMaggio. On the cover of the magazine. Oh, the picture of the beauty queen. Right there. It's on there. Good taste. Don't just stand there. Let's get to it. Strike the pose. There's nothing to it.
Okay, so we're gonna be back tomorrow. It's supposed to be 1 inch of rain tomorrow, but we didn't get much rain today or yesterday. We were supposed to get rained on. We will definitely get rained on tomorrow. Raise it to grade, all the expanded footings, clean up, figure out concrete quantities. I don't mind saying, I think this is my last footing. Like the previous 10 footings, this is my last footing. Get it? It's never gonna be it. Just when I think I'm getting out, they come pulling me back in. Once those verts are installed, like you saw earlier, then we drop all the steel inside the footing. One of the last things that I need to do is raise the footing to grade, so I set up my Stabila LAR 350 laser, and I use the receiver on a grade stick. I find my high spot, I make that 8 inches off the dirt, set the receiver to that, and then run around, raise everything. Once it's raised at the corners and it splits, then I just grab my level and I level it across and I nail off all the stakes as I go. Yes, 2x6 footing boards with an 8-inch footing leaves a gap underneath, but just wait for the next video when we pour concrete, place concrete, you'll see it's not a big deal. So this generally is a one-person job. So while Kyle and my brother Brian came out to help us, while they run around buttoning up things, I think they were going through and adding in all of the point loads. Then I go ahead and I raise this all to grade and I work in sections. There you can now see I got that lower section, then I have a middle section, then the upper section in the front goes all the way out through the garage. And you'll see too when we get to framing, part of the reason for that extra step is that we have a 0 entry on this, which means a wheelchair can go into the house without a step. Now it's just mindless work, turn up the music, crack jokes, whatever. Just get into a rhythm. The basic process to this, as I mentioned, is I go like clockwise, counterclockwise, whatever. Just pick a direction and go. Start at the corners, raise those, tack them, go to a split, tack it, and just work your way around. Then with just a spirit level, you can go through and you can level across from the side that was tacked, and you don't have to use the laser anymore. It's just a little faster to use the spirit level. As you can see how the process works. Now I raise it up, then I'm gonna level across, and that's how it goes. The guy in orange, by the way, is my brother Brian, so go check out his channel at Pioneer Builders Inc., link in my description, because we work for Pioneer Builders. My dad started that company in 1978. Okay, it's coming along. It's coming along. Just raising to grade. Perfect. Or, I love this thing. I also love it when it's right on the money, so. Okay, inspector's here. We're gonna fail inspection. We're nowhere close. Ripes. And yes, the inspector came out early. That's him walking around. here is where it pays to be nice and good to the inspectors. He signed us off because he knows that we're gonna put everything in. He probably also knows it's gonna show up on YouTube, so he can check it at any time. But these guys have been really good to us. They're slammed, we're slammed, everybody's slammed with work. So they do a good job working with us. We can just take pictures of things that they want to document and we just email it to them. Be good to your inspectors. Most of these guys and gals are really easy to deal with. Treat them with respect and earn their respect in return. And when you do that, oh my goodness, is your life going to get a lot simpler. Okay, who wants to form step downs with me? Not me. So notice that the upper boards run long. That's deliberate. And then I just run vertical 2x6s. Well, first of all, I got to tie in all my steel. So those are 24 by 24 inch pens. Then this probably isn't the best way to build them, but it's pretty stout and it goes really fast. So a couple vertical cleats up and down, make sure that they're nice and plumb and even. And that way it will make your life easier when you go to form walls. See, nice and easy. Just cut them off in place. Now it's just a matter of cutting a bunch of pieces that will go outside to outside. Screw them in place. I mean, honestly, this is probably the strongest part of this whole footing. That thing is not going to move. Then just fill in the gaps if they seem big enough. Maybe anything, I don't know, 3 inches or bigger, you're gonna wanna fill in with something. Put a kicker in there, pound some steaks, and that's it.
All right, happy Friday, everybody. Beautiful day here. We are done. Zoom in a little bit. So we're finished. We pour Monday. We got just a couple little things to do. I think what we'll do is we'll set up the laser and we'll shoot. We like to get all of our walls, now that it's all staked and it's up, is now we actually shoot on top of the forms exactly where our walls go prior to pour. And then it's easy to set clips as soon as we're done pouring or placing concrete if you're one of those people. Anyway, I'm tired. This is, I don't bounce back from this stuff anymore. Kyle and I were trying to count just for these verts and like the number of trips that you're circling. It's, well, no wonder I hit 10,000 steps by lunch every day. Anyway, Timmy's lower back is feeling it, but he's about to feel a lot better. Do you know why? Not just because I'm done with work. I'm gonna head up to the mountains. I love you all. See you Monday. Okay, I'm dying. Why didn't you tell me that this was as steep as it is?
You didn't tell me.
Man, this is killing
You're
us.
the one that planned this
So
trip.
we are heading up there before the sun goes down. I'm sweated through everything, but there is Mount Rainier. Boom. It is a gorgeous day. All right, Jared breaks up. We're back on our heads. Wow, I don't know that we're gonna make sunset.
Yeah, but we'll make sunrise. That's for sure.
Way up there. Hey, Sweet Tree Works. Nice. Lord. It has only been 10 seconds since my last video, which was right over there. Oh, I'm dying. Did it. We did it. Time to open some beer. Here is the view from up here. Let's see if I'm gonna lock the focus. We beat this. Hey Jared, you made it before sunset. Barely 5 minutes. This took like an hour longer than I thought it would. Holy cow, it's beautiful. My goodness. Goodness. Turn up the... There she is, Her Majesty. Mount Rainier. Look at that. Lenticular clouds? Man. I don't know which one that is. Well, it took Jared and me way too long. Way too many breaks. We are the only people around. For the moment. Check that out. We made it before sunset. Now it's just starting to get real pretty. Man, oh man. last story before we get down. We barely made it up here for the sunset. How many, but we got our sunset. Just beautiful. Totally worth it, Jared, totally worth it. That's what I'm telling myself.
That's what we'll tell ourselves.
Yeah, I think I need a hot tub. We need a hot tub and a sauna. If there's anybody in the Lake Cushman area that has a hot tub and a sauna, please let me know. We're gonna swing by on the way home. And we didn't even bring bathing suits, so you know it's gonna be a good time. Okay, now it's the real last story because we gotta get going. 205 flights up here in 1.6 miles. Yeah, I'll post the elevation gain. This was brutal. I don't think I've ever done anything this hard, but it's worth it. Last view. Because we could see Mount Rainier. It's kind of hard to see now, but Mount Rainier, Mount Adams, Mount St. Helens. Pretty awesome day for it. There's Mount St. Helens. There's Adams. You can just see it. A little hazy. Mount Rainier. So what do you think, Jared? You think coming down was worse than going up?
Yeah, I don't. I've got no words, man. I got no words.
No, yeah, that was brutal. That was brutal. But we made it. We're so cool, dude. We did it. And I think I only cried like 3 times. Specifically crying for my mom. I just wanted somebody to carry me up there. Big thanks to all the people a quarter of the way up that told us we were halfway. And those 3 girls that said that we had 45 more minutes. They were more accurate. Good night. That was tough. Okay, made it home. We did it. That was way harder than I ever would have imagined. Good night. My legs are just trashed from coming down the hill. So, time for a shower.
Thanks for hanging in there, everybody. I don't know. This is real life, right? You work all day, but there's better things to do than work. One of them is hiking. So that was the Mount Ellinor hike near Lake Cushman, Washington. It was extremely difficult. Oh man, I think I stayed up till like 11. I came home and had a glass of wine. I was like, I'm not going to bed. I'm too tired to go to bed. Anyway, there's the sunset. Wasn't the world's best, but it was good enough. Mount Rainier with some lenticular, well, maybe they weren't lenticulars. I don't think they were. That was my fatigue talking. But thanks for the digression. This was a wonderful Friday evening, even though we worked for it. Man, did we work for it. Oh, you know, it's kind of one of those things where it's the last part of summer. Take advantage of it. And as I mentioned earlier, yes, the footing, hey, it looks good. Looked good from the drone, except for that one mistake that we fixed. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and set up the laser because I wanna shoot exactly where the walls go. On the off chance that we goof something up, which happens. But more specifically, we can locate exactly where the walls go and tack nails so that we can dry line, snap lines on the concrete and set clips while it's still pretty loose. Also, it lets us know if our rebar is still centered enough, if it's perfectly centered well enough. This is the Stabila LA180L layout station. I love this thing. So what I'm doing there is I'm letting it self-level, aiming the, well, you're gonna see it in just a moment. Here, let me just show you what it is that I'm doing.
Blocking my beam.
Yes, it takes a minute, but it sure beats running across the job with string lines, tape measures, etc. Just work that dial nice and slow.
Fast beeps. Bye-bye, here.
Is that solid? I can't hear it.
That's fast. There you go.
Okay.
I had it.
For some reason, using the dial slow, when you go past, then it takes like another 30 seconds the other way to get it to dial in.
Okay.
Okay.
I will go mark.
Okay.
I will go mark all those.
That was okay.
Okay, so we've got concrete here in about an hour. So what we're doing now that everything is staked is we're essentially resetting and shooting exactly the walls. So I set up the laser to my longest line, exactly 6 inches. Where it meets up on that end, I can mark every step down since I set the laser up higher than the highest level of my footings. Easy. Six inches each way, that's my dot. Go straight up to there and automatically shoots square there. Then I can mark step, step. Over here I can mark all my straight runs.
So now, right at that 6-inch mark, I screw a board in, and this is basically just so that we have something to hold our tape measure up to, or our string line, as the case might be. So in this case, it's a string run all the way out, and then we can just plumb down and make sure that everything's nice and straight, or take numbers off of it, because we're jockeying with all those other grades. So while Kyle and I start to pull a tape, and we make sure everything's parallel, you know, front to back off that string, and we're gonna do the same thing side to side. Brian and Greg take care of some last minute things, like they dig down a little footing drain, and then it's relax a little bit while we wait for the concrete truck. Conserve your energy, because if you've ever poured or placed concrete, you know that real quick, you're gonna use a lot of energy, especially if things go wrong. But concrete work itself you're gonna sweat. It's hard work. So conserve energy where you can. There's no shame in sitting around for 15 minutes, 20 minutes before the truck comes. Punctuated equilibrium, you're gonna earn that. You're gonna burn a lot of calories while you pour concrete. Okay, so there's the whole cut before we even started forming. All of those grades depend on the slope and you'll see it as we do the foundation walls. We don't like the concrete to stick out of the ground too much, so that's why it had to step down. We need native soil. There is a nice square and parallel footing, just begging for some concrete. It always looks good, doesn't it? Nice and square. Can't really see that from the ground so well, but you can see it from the drone. So there's all the expanded footings, and we'll get into all of that as we go throughout the framing process. Here's just maybe a little bit better idea for how it sits in there. Kind of see how the ground slopes, ultimately all the way down to the golf course. Nice stout step downs, straight run of rebar. Yeah, we are ready to pour some concrete. Oh, and there's a better shot of how the Dobbies hold up the steel. Okay, thanks for following along, guys. Please hit that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, hit that little bell, and we will see you in the next video where we place some concrete.